last talk. It's on the topic churning and turning away. Why do contributors lose streams? So the panelists are Mangesh, Janhvi, Patil, and Amogh, Lele. I'd request them to come on the stage. And this panel would be moderated by Iyenger. So I'll hand it over to Ram to take it from here.
Thanks for sticking around, everyone. Once t-shirts have been given away and all the food has been distributed, it's hard to find people at a conference. Except PyCon, I've heard. For some reason, they have people sticking until the last minute. But anyhow, a very good evening and welcome all my fellow panelists. I'll let you introduce yourselves. By way of background, this panel was meant to bring forth certain issues about the contributor experience largely. So as people who've been in open source for, 5 minutes to 5 years, whatever level you consider yourselves, I'm sure that you've, as a contributor, experienced certain hiccups, and communities that you contribute to and participate in also have some difficulties in finding contributors and keeping them engaged and making sure that they're doing some work that's kind of useful. And so I thought we should, bring to light all of these issues, and how better to do it than a bunch of different people who are active in FOSS United and other open source projects that are a part of this community. So I'll let you folks introduce yourselves, and being the gentleman we are, Janhvi, maybe you go first.
Oh, okay. Hello, is this okay? Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Hi, so I'm Janhvi Patil and I work for the Commit company. At the Commit company, we build tools for the Frappe ecosystem, and we are building Raven, which is an open source work communication tool. It's completely open source, and we also build and maintain libraries. So some of them are Frappe React SDK, Frappe JS SDK, Frappe types. That's about it.
So apart from the slight advertisement for what your company does, what is your personal involvement in open source and open source ecosystems? Can you let us know about that as well?
Okay. My personal involvement is, so I basically helped build Raven, which is an open source app. And open sourcing the app has helped us get a lot of eyeballs on the app, which I don't think that if we were building in a silo somewhere in secret, so many people would have even known about the app or even talked about it. So FOSS has really helped us get some kind of visualization out there, and just having it as open source, people contribute to it, people actually use it, people have tried it. So you get some kind of gratification. Hey, there are people out there that are using stuff that you build, and they sometimes they contribute back, which is fun.
Amogh, you want to give us your background?
Yeah, sure. So, hi, I'm Amogh. I've been an on and off maintainer of several open source projects. Some of them which were pretty famous but are not so famous now. Maybe you've heard of Launcher. I used to be a contributor / maintainer. It's not so famous now, but I guess that's relevant to the topic at hand, like why do people stop maintaining or contributing. Apart from that, pretty much everything I built is out there in the open because it's literally the only way I know how. Since the very first project I built, I put it on GitHub. It has an open source license. Yes, I did license it. Because that is what FOSS means. If it's just there on GitHub, it's technically not FOSS. But yeah, that's the only way I know how to build things, and that's what I'll continue doing.
Nice. Mangesh, can you give us a little background into who you are, what FOSS means to you? And
So hi, I'm Mangesh. I recently completed my 1 year at FOSS United, and I'm a second year BTech student. So talking about how I got to know about FOSS starts from 2020, the Corona time, when most of all these kids were on internet. I was also on Telegram, and I moreover got to know about FOSS from a lot of people in group chats. So so they used to talk about a lot of cool things, and what my work was to copy that thing and paste it on Google and read about it. So that's how I got to know about FOSS, and sometime after that I also got active on Reddit, like the r/Unixpawn community, and a lot of other things. So I used to maintain a theme project called Everblush. It got pretty famous back then, and it is dead now, but I still do receive notifications about it getting stars and stuff.
So I'm sensing a theme here. We've all been part of some very famous, quote unquote famous, open source projects that are not as popular as they were in the beginning. So let's harp on that a little, but let's talk about it from the angle of somebody who's new to contributing to a community, and what have good experiences and bad experiences be like. I'll start with Mangesh, because he's probably the most freshest mind. As a new contributor, have you faced issues becoming part of a community, and what have those issues been?
So if I say largely the issue is about what type of contributions you get. So back then, one of my project was a simple fetch tool, which I did good marketing about, and it again got like pretty famous in the Unixpawn community. So that time, as a shell script, it wasn't very hard for someone to get a contribution. But when I started the theme project, so theme maintenance needs a lot of work, where you need to find the best color code for the syntax style. So that was the time when I faced a lot of problems, and we were like 2 guys working on it. There was a 15-year-old Indonesian kid, and we both used to work on it. So the problem was we were making ports for multiple open source apps. So VS Code, Vim, NeoVim. That time, it was a major burnout for me after maintaining it for like 7 to 8 months. I wasn't finding any way. So it's like you get up, you make a port, you maintain that port, again edit it. So that felt hard, and that is the biggest problem I see, where if you have a different project going on, then and where you need to maintain it for multiple different apps. So that is the hardest thing I feel.
Janhvi, do you remember your early days of open source? Any problems you had faced?
Yeah. So the problems that I faced was there was this library that I was using for virtualization, and it's just sometimes the documentation, you have problems with reading the documentation, the guidelines are not clear enough, and then when people are replying in the issues, and there's a whole discourse going on, but the original maintainers or the original owners of the repository, they are not getting back to you, so people just start losing faith in the whole repository as a whole. Yeah.
It's like that game, isn't it? You whisper into one ear, and then by the time something comes out of the other end, it has no relation to what started. Yeah, Amogh, any anecdotes from your early days of open source contributions?
Yeah, sure. I think like back in those days, I used to think like the entire FOSS
How
community.
old are you? You can't say back in those days.
So I'm 24, and I started around when I was 17. So that was around the time I began university. I started with like this AOSP community, so there was a lot of interest in custom ROMs back then. So installing Lineage OS on your phone, things like that. So that like one of my first experiences there, at least which I thought at the time, was that the community is super hostile, right? And I was like very taken aback. But as time went on, and like I saw like what these reactions are, I cooled down a little. Turns out like, okay, maybe there was some hostility there, but like a lot of it stems from the fact that these maintainers are overworked. They get like a ton of pull requests that they have to go through. They get a ton of issues. People often don't know how to ask the right questions. So they just ask, hey, are you a Java expert? You know, there's a very common don't ask to ask website that says don't ask, hey, can I ask about this? Just ask your question directly and include all the relevant information, things like that. So those were some of the things I was not following, and I think that's some of the stuff I learned along the way. So sure, maybe it felt a little hostile at the time, but I see where it came from.
Right, so in your opinion, is bad contributor experience a result of contributors not knowing how to navigate the space, or maintainers not having time, efforts, patience, etc.?
I think it's a little bit of both. A lot of maintainers are like heavily overburdened, especially the more popular the project grows. I think there's a small anecdote from Godot, the game engine. We had a workshop about that, I think. But yeah, so the Godot maintainers, they were like quite worried that Unity is going to implode. So Unity was going to, they were going to IPO, so that meant they're going to try and squeeze every dime out of the project, right? And they tried that. They tried adding like that ridiculous fee for projects over 1 million or something like that. I forgot the exact numbers. But they're worried that Unity is going to implode and all those people are going to come and join the Godot community. And what's that going to do is like, they're going to start demanding things. They're not used to the community-driven nature of a open source project, things like that. So they're quite worried about that because they're just like 4 or 5 people leading the team, and most of the other contributors are just like volunteers who make PRs and things like that. But also on the other hand, I think like new maintainers are often very uninformed, and certainly videos like that, Bhaiya Didi channels on YouTube, you know, who say like, hey, just make this PR on Express.js, get it in your resume. So I think there's a lot of misinformation also going around. So there's perspective to be had on both sides.
That's interesting. Now, I'm going to put the same question to you, Janhvi, but slightly different context. There's a bunch of events like Hacktoberfest, and I don't want to say the India Hacks event and things like that, but in your experience as an open source maintainer, how good have contributions from these been? Do you have trouble?
Yeah, we have had experience with that. So in the very beginning, it was pretty cool because so we have had experience with this year's FOSS hack, right? So in the very beginning, a bunch of people got back to us. We even created a whole community for running the FOSS hack on Raven. So a bunch of people reached out to us, and then people had installation issues, or people had other issues that how to set up a bench, how to install Raven. So we helped them with that, and it was pretty interesting for us because people were coming to us, people were interested. These are young kids that want to try out Raven, and they want to learn how to make contributions to this. So we did help them out, and that experience has been really good for us. But what happened during the FOSS hack was, I think those people had only 2 days, so they worked on the contributions. They were pretty nice. And then after the hack, we provided them with feedback that these are the certain things that if you could change, then your PR might be worth merging or even considering, but nobody got back to us. So it's like you're only doing it to win something, or you're only doing it for the putting that contribution on your resume or something, or brag about it on Twitter or somewhere, I don't know. So if you're only doing it to get something out of it and you're not actually interested in maybe learning the technology or actually making a contribution or even using the app after that, so yeah, then it's just to get something out of it, and that wasn't fine.
Mangesh, so I'm going to pull you in here. I don't want to put you on a spot, but as somebody who moderates and coordinates hackathons like these, what in your opinion, could be better? Where are, contributors missing out on contributions, or maintainers missing out on contributions? Is there something that as maintainers we can do better to incentivize these people somehow, or close the loop, or continue to maintain the interest? What are some of your thoughts there?
So one thing I'd like to say first is like FOSS is not more about incentivization. So all these, like Amogh said, all these bhaiya and didis, they made FOSS sound like it is what gets you some kind of incentive or job. So that is one last thing. And being in the FOSS space from last 1 year, I feel that I've always seen the same thing, like certificates. Students want certificates, prizes. That's what has been coming in the bigger picture. So as maintainers or contributors, I feel like there's some fault on both the sides. So maintainers, majorly, they don't have time and they don't have the bandwidth to deal with every single person. So it's moreover the contributor's job to find if something is already done, or find if there has to be like if the feature is very important or not. So if that is coming in, it is very like easy for the maintainer to spot that one thing and get it done faster. Yeah, so that's my take.
I think, everybody articulated about the fact that there is shortcomings on both sides, and there's definitely areas for improvement on both the contributor side and the maintainer side. And I'm going to switch track a little bit and talk about non-technical contributions for a bit. How important do you think they are, and do you see a bunch of people contributing to non-technical requirements on their own, or is it something you've had to push? What's that like?
Okay, so I think as with all complicated questions, I think the answer here is it depends. I'm going to elaborate on that a little. So it depends on the sort of project that you're trying to contribute to and what those non-technical contributions might be. Let's say it's something like documentation, right? A lot of the times the project maintainers write the documentation themselves, and any contributions that come to the docs are maybe small little things like typo fixes, or maybe a detail is missed here and there, and they just create an issue. They don't even make a PR for it. They just say like, hey, this detail is wrong over here, and the maintainer goes and fixes it. That's sort of non-technical contributions. Then let's come to another curious example. That of ad block lists, right? That's not really technical per se. It's just a list of domains you want to block. But then people come and report, hey, this particular way of blocking is blocking my site because it's maybe a wildcard on some stuff like that. In fact, I was one of those people. My site was getting blocked by uBlock because they used to think I was a torrent site or something. Yeah. Then we come to, let's say, projects like maybe GNOME or KDE, right, where there's a lot of other things, other non-technical contributions involved. And I think that's where non-technical contributions really shine. Large volunteer-driven projects like this, instead of like small, maybe one-person projects or a company-driven project, right? So all these large volunteer-driven projects like KDE or GNOME, you need artwork, you need documentation, you need web pages being made, all sorts of things. And I think that's where like the non-technical folks can really contribute. And as for my experiences with seeing where these people, like, are there contributions in this field? I'd say like most people, it depends on the type of contributor they are. If there's like someone who's really, really new, they're probably going to go for a non-technical, easy, quick fix because they're not really familiar with the project. They just want to get their toes wet, so to speak. But yeah, I think it's mostly people who are either annoyed about something in your documentation or in the non-technical aspects of it who contribute, or just new folks, that in my experience.
Janhvi, you mentioned you had documentation trouble when you were starting off. Is this something that you've taken care of, or you've paid particular attention to in your
No,
current,
we are guilty of that. No, so when
it takes a lot of courage to admit it, but thank you.
Yes. So as a bootstrap team, and everybody is a developer and we are working, so you don't have like technical writers or UI UX developers. So these are certain aspects of the project that we do not put a lot of hours in because there are other things that we might be working on. So these sometimes get overlooked because we might not want to go and write the whole documentation on the side when we have already built the feature or built the library. But that is something that we're trying to fix. And yeah, so one of the first contributions that we got on Raven was actually somebody that fixed a broken link that we had on our README. And once we had written the README, we were never going to go back and check every line if it's correct. So that is something really helpful for us because that is something we would have never noticed. But it's a non-technical contribution, very helpful though.
So, does the group have consensus about non-technical contributions to be an important area of focus when trying to get new contributors and things like that? Or it should all be like one big pool and people should be able to pick up what they want? And
yeah, people should be able to pick up what they want, whatever the forte is, whatever the skills lie, and whatever they can actually fix, you contribute there.
But that's where I find another kind of odd challenge, which is people come with a lot of enthusiasm. They want to do something to change the world. They end up on your GitHub repo or whatever public repository. They start looking at your issues. They pick the first most complicated Go concurrency, blah 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 one that you want fixed. And then after, stepping through the code here and there, doing some things, they're like, this is very overwhelming. I'm not going to, bother with this. Are you seeing that kind of experience?
Yes. So during the FOSS hack, we had a bunch of people who were fighting over that they want to make a Google Meet integration with Raven. I mean, why would you start there, right? I mean, sure, it's a big ticket item, but if you're a new contributor, don't fight over that issue. Hey, assign that to me, right? When there were easier issues out there that you could have gone for, and once you're comfortable, then make a PR for the Google Meet integration. We will look into it. You don't have to fight over the issue.
So, sorry, could you remind me of the question?
No, the question was, are people who are coming as new contributors trying to always go for the larger slice of the pie as opposed to something more bite-sized?
All right. I don't think it happens very often because people are rightly so scared of doing something that big, right? But I have seen it happen on occasion, and most of the time people were kind enough to inform the maintainer, hey, this is not in my bandwidth or this is not in my skill set. Sorry, could you please reassign this to someone? But a few times I've also seen radio silence when the maintainer just pings, hey, what's going on? Is there any update on this? You've been working on this, any branches you've pushed, anything we could base our efforts off of? And in those times, it's quite galling for the maintainer to see like someone picked this up. We wasted a bunch of time, guiding them to this, and nothing really came out of it. In those cases, I've seen the maintainer just pick it up themselves out of like, hey, this has been going on for too long. We'll just do this ourselves. But I think most of the times people don't really try to bite off more than they can chew unless they are in it for the incentive and not for actually contributing to the project.
I think that's a nice way to put it. Now there's another whole area of the free and open source experience that doesn't have to do with technical contributions. It doesn't have to do with non-technical contributions or something like that, but more on the side of just the community. And what kind of general behavior are you seeing across the community? Are people tending to bring more people in who might be interested? Are people tending to keep communities to themselves? That I've discovered this hidden gem called FOSS IndiaFOSS, whatever, and I'm not going to tell this to anyone else. Or are they like, hey, I found this amazing community, come join here? What's that behavior like in the communities you've seen?
So I think this was a question for me. So, like you said, there's the second part. So people, if they know about IndiaFOSS, so it gets passed on. So we, according to me, we saw a huge growth in the FOSS United community in the last 1 year. So before this, we did not have like so many chapters. So the chapters this year started becoming active. They wanted to indulge into multiple meetups and do continuous meetups throughout the year, and then a bigger yearly conference in that particular city. So if we want to talk about something out of a project, then I think the biggest example of non-technical contribution is what a lot of volunteers do in FOSS United. So if there's something which we can talk about is that many volunteers here are like helping, and so it can be counted as a contribution itself. So but the difference is that FOSS United is not a project and it is an NGO. So I think if we want to get out of the project thing, then non-technical contributions also hold this all thing. So volunteers do invest a lot of time, even if it is not technical, then they are still doing some kind of work which is helping us promote the word of FOSS and free software throughout India.
What's community behavior like for your communities, Janhvi? Any insight at all? I know neck deep into engineering and things like that, it's probably not a fair question to ask of you, but any insights you can share?
Yeah, I mean, for such an antisocial person as me who hasn't been, active on any of the communities, I'm part of those. I'm like, I'm that one member that sees your message but never replies. So, um, it's difficult for me to answer that. But so we are part of the Frappe community, and then there are partners who use Frappe. So you get to learn what other people are building. It gives you new ideas about what you can implement on your own app to maybe fix their problems. So networking, these communities really help you network, understand problems that you yourselves might never face, but it is out there, and then it gives you kind of like empathy and like disparate opinions. If you basically jump those opinions off of each other, it helps. So just having a community where you can discuss things with extremely disparate people, I think that helps.
Yeah, so I think communities are super essential to free and open source. That is the way I got into it in the first place. I joined like these, cool Telegram groups where people are, hey, I built this custom ROM for this phone. Could you try it out? It has all these cool new features. Install it. Let me see. Let me know. Test it out, please. So I think that's where the whole community aspect got started for me. And I am throughout this journey or whatever, I think communities have been essential. They're the places where I have met all the really important people that I know, both in terms of personal and professionally, and in terms of like just enriching my technical knowledge. So I mentioned that my group of friends that over there who were sitting, I met them all through
Moved here.
Yeah, they moved here. So I've met them all through communities online, on Telegram. And I mean, that's the place where I find my stuff. You'll probably maybe Discord or Reddit or someplace. But I think they're super essential, and I don't think anyone is like exclusionist per se, but maybe there are like a few close-knit group of friends who are not like super enthused about, hey, let's get so many people into this group or things like that. They're just like, hey, if you find someone nice, invite them and whatnot. Yeah, I think that's my take.
Yeah, I think that's good. It's generally reflective of a lot of the experiences that I've seen reported around the globe. And I'll make a slightly controversial statement here. Choose to participate or withdraw if you will. But I said this at the other talk as well, but there's no drama like FOSS drama in the world. And Mangesh, I think very recently there was a lot that happened. Yeah. I'm not going to go into detail, but as someone who's relatively young, I mean, 1 year in FOSS is like 10 years in any regular software engineering life. And so, what is your impression as a early stage contributor, if you allow me to use that term, when you see behavior like that? Do you think it alienates a lot of folks? Does it make them feel, I really didn't sign up for this? And I believe personally that conversations in the community, no matter what they're about, are very essential in shaping the public perception of a community. And what, in your opinion, has this whole event been like?
Okay, so I like to participate in this drama and controversial discussion. So this whatever happens in the FOSS United Telegram group is nothing new for me. So even before this, I've seen controversial discussions and dramas like this. So I think it is more important to indulge and answer some specific questions which are trying to understand your credibility. So even if people ask us questions and ask what are we doing exactly, then that is a sign where people are trying to invest their time and trying to see what is FOSS United or any kind of FOSS community trying to do. So that is something when you understand that people are interested in us, doesn't matter positively or negatively, they are trying to understand us and figure out what we are doing actually. So that doesn't matter if we are, if they are trying to figure out if we are doing right or that's wrong. So that's the whole part. And if I talk about what's the experience with different types of behaviors, I think as like if a person, so one person is like a different behavior than the second. So we have to try to communicate with a lot of different behaviors. So I think opinions are different and preferences are different. So that's how it happens. So one controversial thing would be like, why do people use Mac and Mac or any other closed source operating system when they are a maintainer or a developer of an open source project? So that is one of the biggest controversial thing, I might say. But again, like I said, if a person changes, the preference changes.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, people are entitled to their opinions, right? And about the thing that you said about why use Mac, I think we shouldn't force people to use open source just because it's open source. Open source should have a quality, like, hey, this is really good, that's why I'm using it, not only because it's open source, because, I don't know, that's, I think, my personal opinion.
By the way, I forgot that you also use a Mac.
Yeah, so I'm not going to comment on the recent FOSS drama or anything, but I'm going to bring up some other instances of like very highly publicized drama in the FOSS community, and I'm also going to talk a little about why this thing feels like, why is there so much drama in the FOSS community, right? I think the number one reason why people perceive that there's a lot of drama in the FOSS community is because things happen out in the open. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of drama happening everywhere. There's politics that happen in all offices, in all companies. In this case, it's just out in the open. People are going to have conflicts, and this is just a place where they happen publicly. So that's the why FOSS communities have so much drama. But as for the example that I was going to take, it was about the recent stepping down of the maintainer for the Rust for Linux project. So I think his name is Wetson, and he recently just sent a very short, simple mail saying, I am tired of dealing with all the non-technical nonsense that I've been facing, and that takes up a lot of my time, so I'm stepping down as maintainer. And he linked to a short video where like he was being questioned about like completely irrelevant things to what he was actually trying to talk about. And I think the effects of this are pretty clear, right? We lost a key member of someone trying to add something important to such a large and influential project as the Linux kernel. And so, yeah, I think this sort of drama is definitely going to happen, but it's also often very divisive and harmful to the people and communities involved. And there's been other instances of this in other FOSS projects as well. And I think the one thing that people should just get right in this case is that just be respectful. Whether you disagree with someone, just be respectful to them. And in that civil discourse, it might seem endless, but at least you're not making someone storm off and leave a project. That's my take.
Now I'll get into sort of my last question for all of you, which is about, I mean, we've heard both sides of the story. We've heard something controversial, we've heard something not. Do you recall any instances of very positive influences from a mentor? Have you had a mentor in your open source journey? What was it like? How has that impacted you positively? Start with you, Amogh.
Sure. So I've not just had one mentor, I've had many mentors, some of them for a really long time, and some of them, like, they're still my friends today. I ask them for help occasionally, and they ask me for help occasionally, which I take as a really nice sign that maybe I have, just grown a little in terms of technical and whatever other skills. But as for the other mentors and whatnot, they're like, the few maintainers of the project that I contribute to, who are like just especially nice to me, who took out time from whatever they're working on to just add a little suggestion here before I even asked for anything, before I even started on the issue. They're just like, hey, maybe you want to take a look at this file. There's like this utility function which you might find useful. So those tiny sort of little interactions I still count as my mentors, because they're really what help you. Those small little things add up. And so those are like the few tiny little positive experiences which I have and which continue to make me hopeful about the FOSS space as a whole.
How about you?
Yeah, so for me, I think in the Commit company we have Nikhil. So he has been a bit of a mentor for all of us. He's the one that actually got us into open source because he was using Frappe before us. He introduced it to us, and then we were like, okay, that is pretty cool, and then we started using it. And then I got introduced to the Frappe community, and then there's this guy Hussein. He has this YouTube channel. I think it's pretty inspiring because he builds everything in public and you can see the mistakes that he makes, how he builds stuff, what is his thought process, and then you can try implementing it yourself. So yeah, I think these are some small people that you look up to in the community, and then you also get to meet them because you go to these events and they are all there.
Yeah. Mangesh, any positive mentorship experiences?
So I think I am very young to have a maintainer. So one of my, I did not have any physical or in-person maintainer before. So all I had was like online people who used to come and help. So often I get help from some foreigner friends. Like if I'm messing up with Git, they come, they fork my repo, and then they try to teach me sending commands to explain what happens. But one of positive impacts has been since Rahul joined us, so that has been one of the positive things because he has been guiding all of us in the team on how to write clean code, how to clean the whole Python code. So I think that is the larger thing happens when you have a mentor. So this was my very first experience having someone, some experienced maintainer. So talking about the online people, I don't know what's their age, who are they, and where are they from. So that has been one of the notable experiences since I joined the FOSS community in person. So all of this, before it was I knew FOSS, I knew what FOSS was and how it works, but I did not I did not know there was so much philosophy behind it. So this was very recent when I started digging deep into the FOSS philosophy and why free software matters.
Yeah, I think we're almost out of time. I just want to quickly summarize what we've heard so far, which is, FOSS is incredibly important to pushing the boundaries of what software can do and what hardware can do, in a way, I guess. But there is something to be had both from the contributor side of things and the maintainer side of things in order to improve the overall FOSS experience. I believe our panelists also said that both technical and non-technical contributions are extremely critical to the success and the sustenance of any FOSS ecosystem. And there's no shame in picking up very small, tiny PRs and tiny issues to fix as a starting point and then progressively moving on to larger and better things. I think we also touched upon the fact that drama in FOSS is inevitable, easier to consume, I guess, because it all happens in the open, but a lot of positive experiences can come from contributing and from finding a good mentor who helps you contribute and shapes your thought and your process and things like that. I'm going to go for closing thoughts. Start with you, Amogh.
Well, I don't really have any thoughts per se, but I'd just like to say that, again, FOSS is super important, as mentioned here. But one thing that maybe maintainers can pick up on is tone down maybe the irritation they have that they face every day. Big ask, but hey, Linus tried, and maybe there has been some change in how he talks to people, so you can do it too. And as for the contributors, maybe just explore the communities a little, ask around, hey, how do I ask questions? How do I go about this? Instead of demanding things, don't be entitled to your answers, and just be nice to everyone. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, this panel has been pretty insightful. I also do not have a lot of thoughts as such. But yeah, like Mangesh said, now I kind of see more into how community has really helped grow FOSS in India, because when I was in college, I see so many college volunteers over here. But when I was in college, nobody, not even my teachers, talked about FOSS, to be honest. So that is something that is changing right now, and FOSS United has a big role to play in that. So think things are going in the right direction.
Mangesh, closing thoughts.
So I'd like to shed light on the last part where you said that non-technical contributions are very important. So one biggest example is that 4 years ago, if Kailash or Rushabh did not try to find Vishal, he wouldn't have been able to find us, the 8 people team who have now, who are like trying to indulge and try to fix these FOSS dramas and a lot of other things. So non-technical contribution do matter a lot, and it's more than just documentation.
Sure, absolutely. Big thank you to all three of you for taking the time to share all of your experiences, bearing with my questions, and a big thanks to all of you for joining here in such a huge number, despite it being like the last few moments of the conference. Have a nice day. Bye bye.